Welcome, everybody, to Titan Table Talk. Tony Bankston here again with you for this week's edition, and we're going to start things off with the director of the track and field program at Illinois Wesleyan University, head men's track and field coach Todd Lowder. Todd, welcome.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Have you recovered from this past weekend yet? I don't know, you had about 9,000 people inside the Shirk Center, so.
You know, it was a phenomenal weekend. Just under 900 athletes. We had a time schedule that wouldn't have had us done. We started at 9 o'clock in the morning until about 9 at night. We were able to get done about 2 hours early because the officiating crew, the coaching staff, everybody just really crushed it. And the competition was amazing. I think we had roughly 21 top 50 performances in D3 across all the teams that were here. Several junior college top 10s. Because we had 2 junior colleges here. On our team alone, we had 9 top 10 performances all time, and I think 25 PRs. So, you know, yes, I'm not recovered yet would be the answer, but flying high from getting to watch a group of student athletes really reach and the training that they've been doing pay off.
When a track meet like that, you know, grows all of a sudden, is that, you know, in the track world, how does it work? You would think, well, you send out invitations and these are the teams you invite to compete, or are you getting phone calls from people saying, hey, would you mind if we bring our team? And I mean, how does it kind of get to where it's a little bit larger maybe than what you expected?
You know, you look year over year. Last year, I think this year we had 14 teams. Last year we had 10. So we added 4 teams. Now, a couple of those were exactly what you said, last minute. We send out invitations in late summer. You start getting people trickling in. Maybe September, October, somebody else says, hey, would you mind? And then all of a sudden in December, January, somebody else says, hey, would you mind? And it's kind of hard. When do we draw that line? You don't really know how many each team is bringing until the entries start coming on, which are the last, 14 days before the meet. And at that point, sometimes it takes on a life of its own and you go, oh, we're on this roller coaster and we can't get off. So let's figure it out.
Well, we talked to a couple of your track and field athletes, I think, last week. And we said, track is one of those interesting things because you like to win an individual meet as a team, and that's great, but really the whole focus is getting ready for conference championships and qualifying at the national level. And obviously you do that on an individual basis. So as a coach, that's obviously kind of what you've got to plan out. And we talked a little bit off campus. You have meets coming up. This Friday you'll have some athletes that'll be at Grand Valley State University, and then you'll have some athletes that'll be at DePaul on Saturday on the 15th. And I asked, why Grand Valley State, and you taught me a little bit. You said 300-meter indoor track, and we talked about the difference of running on a 300-meter indoor track versus a 200-meter track. And then you mentioned that you had gone to Louisville and got some experience running on a bank track where the ends are banked, and you're seeing that more at the Nationals. So talk a little bit about the technology and the differences between these venues and why that's important as you get your student athletes ready for the end-of-season competition.
Kind of unpack a few things you said there. One, this is a time of year that's tough to be a track and field coach. Obviously, athletes are looking to PR every single week. That's not how physiology works. And really, we're in a time of the season, we're starting to come out of it, where we really load up training. So their bodies aren't fresh, they're adapting. That adaptation process takes time, so they don't see the numbers on the scoreboard when they come across the line. And you're talking them off the ledge, telling them, dig into the process. Here are some execution things we need to do, and that's what we focus on right now. As training starts to lighten up toward the end of the season, we're trying to put them in positions that are going to feel like the national meet. So Grand Valley State is a meet where you have to have qualifying times or marks in a jump or a throw. So the decision is to take kids who fit, who potentially are going to find themselves in that position at the end of the year at the national meet. So that when they get to the national meet, it's not like, oh my gosh, I had no idea. Hopefully it's a little bit more familiar. That sets them up mentally, physically, competition-wise in a position to excel. Yes, the track's 300 meters. It wasn't too long ago. There weren't too many options. It was basically an indoor, sometimes smaller, 180-meter track. I think there's some 160s still out there on the high school level, which are just tight as can be and really not conducive for very fast times. And then we got to like what we have at Shirk, a 200-meter track, which is fantastic indoors. There's a few 300 oversized. Potentially in a race like a 400 or an 800, you're running fewer corners. You can run faster on a straight stretch. You're running wider corners so you can hold speed better. So they're just faster venues. And then, as you mentioned, the latest advent are these hydraulic or fixed bank tracks, a lot like a NASCAR track. So you're not fighting the centrifugal forces pulling you off the corner, much easier on the body. And what I can tell you is the conversion is about 0.7 of a second per 400 meters. So like last year, Evan ran at our conference championship 48.4, which converted down to 47.7 for his national qualifying because the meet was in Virginia Beach on a bank track. So that's what they figured out, that the rough difference is per 2 laps. So, do the math, it's 0.4, a little less per lap.
Did it work out that way when he ran his time, or what was his time?
It was close. Yeah. It was close. It's hard to say. I don't know if you remember, he got hit with a camera in the prelim and then got tangled up in the final, so we don't really know, unfortunately. But yeah, I think by and large, a kid like, the variable is a kid like him who's really tall. Sometimes the conversion can be, he'll get all of the conversion because when he gets on that bank track, the forces are so much more gentle. A shorter athlete that this tight, flat track doesn't affect as much, maybe they don't get as much out of the conversion.
I talked about this to some other people. They put the new posters up in the hallway there at Shirk with the team posters and everything, and I said, you know what? It used to be that we had the men and the women's track teams together, and it was a big group, and now we've got the men and the women separate, and it's still a big group. There's been a lot of growth, and how's that been for you as a coach, kind of managing the practice sessions with all of your assistant coaches and Amelia, our women's track coach, and helping all that still run smoothly?
You're on the front line of that. Managing Shirk, I'm sure, is a daunting task for us. I came on, there were 38 men on the team. There are 62 now. The women's team's been pretty stable in the 40s, so we're over 100. The sprint group is enormous. So yeah, you begin to, Huff and I always laugh, it's controlled chaos at practice, and you better have your head on a swivel because distance is going one way, jumps are on the inside, we're flying down the track. Even as a coach, I really am always looking around before I step in to see something to make sure I don't step in front of somebody. I think we're at a place where next year we probably got to look at multiple practice times in order to do it justice and have enough eyes on athletes to do them justice. I find myself doing a lot more one-on-ones, especially with our newer athletes or athletes that are running into something and need a little extra time. When it was 38 men, it was pretty easy to give everybody attention in that 2 hours every day. Now, but it's what we do. I mean, how blessed are you if you're a track junkie to get to do it for a living? Right.
Well, and I had to be schooled on this in my early days of paying attention to the track program when I first came back to work at Wesleyan in '92, and then we had those dominant women's programs that were winning national championships. And I was always like, hey, why are we winning national championships, but we can't seem to compete very well? We're finishing 4th in the conference championship. And, of course, it is numbers, and it's the number of people you have to enter in events in order to accumulate enough points at the conference level to win a conference. And I think that's a little bit of a goal in this program growth, too. You had the men finish 2nd last year. I think the women finished 4th. I assume that part of your goal in this program growth is you'd like to start competing for conference championships.
Yeah, that you just nailed the weird situation is track and field. You almost can have success at the national level quicker with the right athletes because at the conference level it is numbers. Our conference, the CCIW, happens to be a 5 entries per team per event limit. So, man, you've got to be really deep and really talented even at the bottom end of that to win a conference championship. We've come from roughly 8th place 4 or 5 years ago on the men's side to we've been 2nd, 3rd for the last few. And it's bridging that gap. I'm not going to mention the evil empire, but bridging that gap to getting to where they're at is tough. It's a challenge. And, yes, winning is always the goal.
I think the other thing that's really interesting about track is you're able, numbers are numbers and times are times, and you're able to look at times heading into any meet really, but let's say a conference championship, and you're able to try to start to figure out based on other people's times that are posted where you might finish. Where do you think the two teams might land this year? What do you think their best possibilities are in the conference tournament and where they might land?
So, I've said this all year to our men. We've got a lot of the right pieces. Some, like any championship, whether it's basketball or tennis or wrestling, some things are going to have to go our way. I think we closed the gap pretty hard. We've got almost everyone back from last year. We've got some talented freshmen that have come in. So, but everybody's doing that. So it's still going to be a tough battle. I think that last year we were tied for second. One of the great messages, and I hope some of the kids get to see this, we always talk about is, it doesn't matter where you score 30 points or 1 point. That goes to the total. And that 1 point might be it. We tied at the end of the day with Carthage to get that second place last year. And I don't mind throwing his name out there. Matt Wagner had never scored in the conference meet. And I said, dude, 1 point might do it. He scored 1 point. That 1 point got us the tie. So yeah. I remind the guys all the time, I don't care if you're the superstar or you're a guy just barely scoring, you're just as important as the guy next to you. So that was huge. I haven't answered your question because I don't know. Yeah. I think it's going to be tight. I think the top three this year are really going to fight again like we did last year. I think it was 40 points between us and North Central last year for first. I think that's going to be tighter. Yeah. On the women, I think they're pretty stable. They unfortunately are in this dubious position where this giant hole between 1 and 2, which is likely Elmhurst and North Central. I think on a side note, Elmhurst could shock North Central for the first time in a lot of years this year. They are really strong on the women's side and very strong nationally as well. And then there's this gap in the middle there, and then you've got a big group behind them. So I think the women are going to be third, fourth. I would love to see some things happen. I think we're making some strides and maybe hit that third, make that little bit of a climb. And, the girls have worked really, really hard.
Well, best of luck with all of that, not only for the next couple of weeks leading up to the conference championship. CCIW kicks off on February 28th for the CCIW. And, a little bit of time between now and then to get everybody just a little bit quicker and a little bit longer and all those good things. So.
Yeah. Yeah, well, thanks for having us. I mean, it's great always to recognize the effort that these young people are putting in and how they're just sticking their nose in there and believing in themselves, and that's what it's all about.
Awesome. Well, thanks for joining us and for all the hard work. We'll be back on Titan Table Talk with more right after this.
Why is Illinois Wesleyan the #1 school in Illinois for jobs? Maybe it's because we're the AND University. That's right, A-N-D. And here you can explore the arts and study in a pre-professional program, double major and play a sport, do an internship and study abroad. Your opportunities are endless. Tap or click now to explore Illinois Wesleyan and start your free application today.
Welcome back to Titan Table Talk. We're now meeting with head women's basketball coach at Illinois Wesleyan University, Maya Smith. Maya, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Tony.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a mixed bag this week, but I'm going to start with the good before the frustrating, probably is maybe a good way to put it. But a week ago on Wednesday, tough matchup. Carroll University came to town. It was really a game that was going to decide who was in the driver's position for the conference season to host the conference tournament, hopefully win the regular season conference championship. Two teams that had really battled. Carroll, obviously good feelings coming in the Shirk Center where they'd won the conference tournament championship, last year. Big game. The team had a great crowd. You guys were down 18 points and then mounted a terrific comeback to go from 18 down to leading by 14. And as much as it was a nail biter and wondering what the heck was going on maybe that first half, at the end of the day, what a heck of a performance by your team.
Thank you. And, we give credit to our student body and to Katie Gonzalez for organizing the 95 pizzas for the win night. So it was a great environment and literally probably one of my proudest moments as a Titan to see that many students and student athletes come out to support us. The coaches of all the teams in, our office and the athletic department, had their players come out and support us. And it was just, like I said, it was so electric. You could feel the intensity from our crowd. Such a great thing.
Well, and this will be a theme maybe that I feel like we'll talk about a little bit when we go over the Carthage game as well. But that Carroll game started out with you probably not seeing the type of defense that you wanted to see. It was a combination of Carthage playing well and making a lot of shots. But I know you were a little bit disappointed that the defense wasn't performing at the way that maybe through scout and preparation you had hoped to. And then you really turned that on its head in the second half.
Yeah. I'm not sure where our defense goes at times. I think sometimes it's a little bit storybook where it becomes a mystery for us because it's just not in play in the times that it needs to be. And I have a great defensive team. And being a defensive-minded coach, it's really hard on me sometimes to see us not put out that effort. But definitely in the second half, we figured it out. We grabbed our intensity back and brought ourselves back into the ballgame.
And you're a team that, you hear this, it's this cliche to a certain degree, but that the defense really feeds your offense. But when you guys are getting turnovers, when you're getting stops, and you can play at a high tempo, your offense just looks a lot better.
It does, and how much more fun that is to play and to watch. I'm sure it's much more exciting for our fans to be there and to see that type of excitement. But definitely, we're known around the country for our run and jump press, and we've struggled a little bit with it. We don't have Laura Malum in the last 3-4 games, and I think her defensive presence, that's what she does so well. I think that's been bothering us a little bit. And then also, our rotations become smaller. We're playing 7 instead of 8, and that's a pretty low number, I think. We need to get back to that eight-player rotation.
Well, you won that game, and if I remember correctly, that set you up at, I think it was 20-0 and 10-0 in the conference, or 11-0 in the conference, and then headed up to Carthage. And I know if I talked to Brian Ayresman earlier in the week, I said, this is a classic trap game a little bit. You're coming off the emotion of a huge win. You got to take the longest drive of the conference season all the way up to Kenosha, which is never always a lot of fun, playing it, in the middle of the afternoon. You knew Carthage was going to be ready for you and ready to go, and unfortunately ended up dropping that 86-81. And really defense kind of the tone. I mean, Carthage played well, shot over 50% from the field, but you had not given up 86 points. Other than overtime games, you had not given up 86 points in a regularly timed game all year long.
Exactly. Trinity was that game. After our game at Carthage, I went back and looked because I knew there was no way we had given up those kinds of points. And how we gave them up is a little bit frustrating. I felt like we died on plays defensively. We were supposed to be in gap defense the entire time in that game. And, so we go from game to game. I thought the game against Carroll, our post players didn't defend as well. So post players come in, they sit down and watch film with Kate Bowman, and then they play great defense against Carthage, and our guards kind of lose their way. So I'm not exactly sure what has happened. Still trying to figure it out. Did go back and watch the game, but it was definitely our defensive effort, and our intensity just was not there. There were a lot of different factors. I think, the game being on marquee sports TV, the 2-minute, 30-second media timeouts, those were really, I think, kind of momentum changers for us a little bit too. And give credit to Carthage because they absolutely played very, very well. The best Carthage play I've seen since I've been here in 27 years.
We've had this debate around the office with different people, and I know, again, Coach Ayresman and I had the conversation as well about when you are undefeated, obviously you want to win all your games. If you win all your games, you win the championship, it makes everything easier. But it's really about human nature and the pressure that builds up, even if you're saying you're going game to game. You notice when you're 18-0 and 19-0 and 20-0 and ranked number 2 in the country. I know at the beginning of this season, after the disappointment of the conference tournament championship and after the loss to Wartburg in the second round of the NCAA tournament in a game you felt like you guys could have won, you had an extremely motivated team coming into this season, and it has shown throughout the season. But it's human nature. It's hard to ride that level of intensity and focus for 3 months. And that's kind of really what you're tasked with, right, is being able to channel that as long as you can, and now maybe after this weekend, recapturing that a little bit.
You're absolutely right. I think, I'm not sure about the trap game. I think it was kind of, an odd place for that game, and then having to get up there and play. But the thing that I think probably did happen is that, we just felt so relieved that maybe we let our guard down after the Carroll game. And certainly I'm sure that the girls are having a hard time today. Probably not as hard a time as Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce, but I struggled with the loss. One of the things I had really hoped when we did get past that Carroll game, I thought to myself, okay, they can do it. We still got to just keep to the grind. And then one of these days, the girls are going to be able to sit down at Thanksgiving dinner and tell their families and their children, how they were the 25-0 team in regular season in 2025. And so I'm a little bit disappointed for them for that, but certainly not disappointed with what we can do yet. And, one very, very inspirational coach said, none of your goals have changed. You still have the conference tournament, the conference championship. You still have NCAA play, so nothing has changed for you. we only lost our pride in that game at Carthage. So that's kind of what I'm trying to swallow. It's not going down very well, but that's where my thought process is.
Well, and to recapture maybe some of that team focus, I mentioned earlier, nothing. You can say all the right things to a team, but human nature is human nature. And sometimes nothing gets a team's attention like a loss, right? You can have a lot of where you haven't been playing well, but you squeak by with a win, and then just that lesson just doesn't stick very much. We've had periods where the team may be offensively a struggle a little bit, and I'll come into the Shirk Center the next day, and girls are coming in all during the day and working on their shot. When it's on the defensive side of the ball, you don't see anybody coming in and running their own defense. Coming in and working on your shots, one thing. But it's really focus and it's intensity and it's team defense and making sure everybody's on the same page, and that's kind of where you're probably trying to get back to.
Absolutely. And that'll be our focus moving forward throughout the rest of the season, I think, is, teams are trying all kinds of junk offensive sets against our run and jump. But, I've been running and jumping my entire coaching career. So starting back at Carroll in high school, and there's always ways, there's a counter. And it's the same with anything in sport. There's always a counter opportunity for you. And we just have to believe that there's a counter for some of the junk offensive sets that they've used to try to break our press, and then get back to hustling and trusting, and then getting that speed picked up to where we can play at a higher pace.
Well, as we mentioned, the good news is you are still clearly in the driver's seat here. You've got games this week. We just found out we're moving the Wednesday night home game against North Park is going to be moved to Tuesday night due to inclement weather on Wednesday. So this usually comes out, I think Titan Table Talk will come out the day before that, so everyone can adjust their plans for that. Should be a game that hopefully, again, you can make those adjustments and the teams can build on that. And then you've got a senior night coming up, and what's I'm sure going to be a very emotional and special senior night to you with this crew when you host Millikan on Saturday.
Tony, you had me feeling pretty good about the game and getting ready for the next one. And then you mentioned senior night, and what a choker that's going to be already. And it's what's odd about that is we're making preparations. Our parents are responding to how many people are going to be at senior day, and they're like really looking forward to the game, but honestly got to say I'm not, and not looking forward to what it signifies that it's the last regular season home game of those four seniors who are such great girls, and they've had an incredible career at Illinois Wesleyan. We just need to keep that going.
And you'll have those 2 home games this week, and then still have 2 more games left to finish off the conference, both on the road against North Central and Augustana. So really building these next 2 weeks to try to get ready and then hopefully maintain that number 1 seed and host the conference tournament. I know you and your players enjoy nothing more than playing in front of your home crowd here at Shirk.
Crowd, yep, you betcha. There is no better place to play a game than at Shirk. I mean, you just got to love the intensity of it, the atmosphere of it. It's a beautiful building. We've got a great pep band. We've got live stream going. We've got commentators. It's just a perfect place to play.
Well, congratulations on, like I said, on everything to this point. Like I said, 20-1, nothing to sneeze at, and there's a lot of work left to do in the season. I know you want to keep this whole team, and especially these seniors and yourself, busy for as long as possible this spring.
Mid-March, baby, mid-March.
Great. Thanks for joining us. We'll be back with more on Titan Table Talk right after this.
I can see it now, the smell of the grass on the quad. That sense of excitement in the air each fall. It feels like yesterday. While I'm no longer 18, I know there are students out there ready for an opportunity like I had. For the space to discover passions, bond over dreams, and make lifelong friends. Breakthrough at Illinois Wesleyan University.
Welcome back to Titan Table Talk. We're now sitting down with head men's basketball coach at Illinois Wesleyan University, Ron Rose. Ron, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Tony.
Yeah, I was just thinking it's weird walking around the office today. We've got one basketball team 20-1, the other's 18-4, and it feels like a funeral parlor today. Walking around. It's been a rough week.
It's a rough week.
Things haven't gone the way of the Titans, but they've really been incredible season, and both teams are really in great position. And probably there's been a lot of seasons where you said, hey, if I could promise that after 22 games, you're 18-4 and 10-3 in the conference, most years you'd take it.
No doubt.
But just tough losses this week, midweek against North Central, and then a really tough loss in a close contest against Carthage this weekend. And it just kind of shifts a little bit of the positivity you guys have been really feeling all year.
Well, when you're sitting 1 week ago today, 18-2, ranked second in the country, coming off, even more importantly, playing really well against Elmhurst. And then we had a tough week. We played 2 good teams on the road. Needed to play better. Both were competitive games, just didn't pull them out. It certainly does change maybe the mojo or how you feel about it, but the reality is we're 18-4. Everything's in front of us. We do need to make sure, though, we handle these losses correctly, that we don't allow them to affect how we play down the stretch. It needs to motivate us to play better down the stretch and learn from these 2 tough losses.
Putting a team together, I think, for a coach is always a puzzle, right? It's like, how are the pieces going to fit together? And you're figuring out things as you go along the season. And sometimes it's valuable to learn where your vulnerabilities are even late in the season, right? Because there are teams, like you look at a North Central team, which I think I looked this morning, maybe they're 7-6 in the conference, and they've struggled with a lot of teams in the conference, but they've played you tough twice. You had a triple overtime game here at home, which you won, and then lost on the road. But you may face a team like North Central in the NCAA tournament, as an example. And so is it helpful for you to kind of look at it and say, here's what teams are doing? Is I thought in the Carthage game, it seemed like they were trying to spread the floor a little bit, and when for your posts that were out on the perimeter trying to guard, that they were trying to use maybe quickness advantages there. Sometimes that's helpful. I mean, if I'm trying to give you some positives to hold on to, it's maybe learning about where the chinks in the armor might be so that you can tighten it up.
Well, Tony, I'm an optimistic guy, so I'm looking for those positivities. Basketball's a game of matchups, and you see that at all levels in terms of how do you match up. Certain matchups are to your advantage. Some matchups are challenges. And so to your point, that's absolutely true. Throughout the year, you play different types of teams, some that are guard-oriented, some inside-oriented, some man, some zone, some press. And you have to figure out how to take advantage of your strengths and try to mask areas they have strengths. And so certainly I'd always rather lose. I'd always like to learn those lessons with a win. And I think we did that. We've always said one of my mantras of coaching is what's acceptable in victory needs to be acceptable in defeat. Meaning if you win a game and you're okay with how you played, if you lose the game and you make the same mistakes, then you can't yell at the kids after a loss if you haven't corrected them after a win. And so, like North Central, we knew kind of the strategy they were going to employ, and early on, I think we really took advantage of it. We just need to. I think consistency's been a big thing for us. There have been times in the Carthage game, in the North Central game, where we played really good basketball. But then there are times where we kind of go away from that. And so for us, as we close in 3 regular season games left, leading into the conference tournament, hopefully the NCAA tournament, we just need to find more consistency in doing the things that allow our team to be successful.
Have you noticed if it's been in games where you tend to dip on both sides of the court at the same time? Or in other words, are you saying that, when you're playing good defense, you're generally playing better offense as well, and so whether it's just a level of kind of getting to that heightened level of focus and intensity that helps you on both sides, or are you having some games where you're playing great offensively, but you're just not getting what you need on the defensive end, and so you still find yourself in a tight game? Yeah,
I think most teams, and I think this is true, when you're scoring, your defense usually has heightened intensity. It's easier when you have that momentum to play with that energy.
Right.
And we can't think that way because we are a defense rebounding first team. Our defense has to generate offense. And we've been a lot better in transition this year. When we're really good in transitions, when you're getting stops, when we're aggressive, when we're intense, taking teams out of their offense. And I think that has, that was one of the factors at Carthage is we let them get in the 80s. That can't be us. Not that you can't win a game that way, but we have to hang our hat on the defensive end and be really stingy. And I think that creates a lot of offense for us as well.
We've talked about the men's and the women's program this year about Again, Illinois Wesleyan is always typically a big game in conference, and certainly when you're coming in ranked number 2 in the country, it adds any extra juice to it if it was lacking any juice up to that point. Teams want to beat you, and it's certainly exciting for them to get their fan base and their student body excited about, trying to knock off number 2. And we talked about this with Coach Maya Smith a little bit in their loss to Carthage this weekend, but she goes, they came out just with high intensity and just seemed to be playing a lot faster than we were, and how that, for a team that's already amped up, how early success in a game really builds for them and how dangerous that is for you. You've almost really got to snuff out that excitement early in the game and as quickly as possible.
Well, yeah, when you're coming in as the favored team, as the ranked team, that as the game goes on, the more success the opponent has, the more they start believing that maybe they could win that basketball game. So, and I did think Carthage came in and North Central both very edgy. They know it's a big game. They've seen the headlines. So certainly, and I think that's true in my 19 years at Illinois Wesleyan every single year, is teams get up for Illinois Wesleyan. It's natural. And so our guys know that's coming. And then the challenge is we have to be ready for we're going to get everybody's best punch, best game, and our guys need to be ready for that. Now, I do think as you get into tournament play and everybody's amped up, that should be to our advantage.
Yeah, you'll be used to it for sure, right?
Yeah.
Bye week coming at the right time. You guys are off this week, and much like a lot of teams, both at the high school and collegiate level, I'll go to a game, and there's all kinds of people missing with illness, and you haven't been the only ones affected by that. You've got a little bit of it running through the team right now. So I imagine this, for a couple different reasons, this bye week is coming at the right time.
It really is, especially late in the year where you can, couple things, take a little more break, get healthy, and we've had several guys that aren't feeling great. And then also really hone in on yourself. When you have those extra days, you're not preparing for somebody, you're preparing to play better basketball the way you need to play. And I actually took that away, as you evaluate your team, you evaluate yourself after every game. I think we need to spend more time as I evaluate our preparation on ourselves. I thought we did a lot of good things. We just need to do what we do a little bit better, and I really took that away as something that I need to focus on moving forward.
One of the reasons I think both the men's and the women's teams are having great seasons this year are special senior classes, and
no doubt
that's coming up on Saturday. You'll still have some games to play after that, but home against Milliken on February 15th at 4:15 will be senior night, and I know that's always an emotional night for a coach and one that always holds a special place in your heart. But when you've got a bigger senior class and guys that have been big parts of the program for their entire tenure, it makes it a little different, I would guess.
Well, it is incredible. Every year you just scratch your head and think, that's 4 years went by pretty fast. You think back to our seniors, and it does not seem that long ago that they were moving in to Munsell Hall as freshmen. And they say the same thing every year. It's just amazing how quickly 4 years goes. And this is a great group of seniors. I love those guys. They've meant a lot to the program. It's a really unique class. There's 6 of them, and they're all uniquely different, but they fit together like a glove. I mean, it's really something when they each have their own personality. Some are talkative, some are quiet, some are, they're all different, but yet they fit together incredibly well. And I think, the big thing that ties them together, they're just all great kids. They're all thoughtful. They're all respectful. They're great teammates. They're great friends. They're caring. So even though their personalities are different, they have some character traits that are all common to each other.
And Milliken will be the opponent that day. I thought your team, when you played at Milliken, played pretty well, a pretty comprehensive, strong team effort. Carlo Kolak, I think, individually had a really strong game for you and sparked a lot of things. So always interesting playing a team the second time around. Nice to have this at home instead of on the road. But, is that an opportunity maybe to have some of your positive feelings come back from maybe the way the team played against Milliken?
Well, Shirk Center's been great to us this year. I mean, we've played really well at the Shirk Center. We've won some big games. We've won some close games, exciting games. So we've played well at home. Milliken's having a good year. There's a group of teams fighting for that conference tournament spot and seeding, and they're one of them. So they'll come in highly motivated. Certainly we will also, having come off 2 losses, and we have a lot of respect for Milliken. Know we're going to have to play well.
So getting a little bit healthier and hopefully seeing the benefits of that. Again, the men's basketball program home on the 15th, then back home again against a tough North Park team that's been up towards the top of the standings, and then finishing on the road at Augustana. So we wish you the best. Hopefully everybody gets a little more healthy, and it's a strong finish to the season.
Well, thanks, Tony. Looking forward to it. I've really enjoyed coaching this group. It's a terrific group of young men, easy to cheer for anyone who's come out. I think it's a fun group to watch play, so we're looking forward to an exciting finish to the regular season.
Terrific. All right. Well, we wish you all the best, and we'll have a little bit more left here on Titan Table Talk right after this.
They say inside every challenge is an opportunity. At Illinois Wesleyan, you have the power to seize that opportunity. Discover the tools, the mentors, and the experiences to take on any challenge and shape not just who you are, but who you will become. The best college in Illinois for jobs is right here. Tap or click now to start your free application and break through at Illinois Wesleyan University.
Welcome back to Titan Table Talk. We're going to finish up this week's episode with head men's volleyball coach at Illinois Wesleyan University, Brandon Mueller. Brandon, welcome.
Hey, thanks for having me again.
Long Super Bowl Sunday for you. I mean, most people, it's about, all the appetizers they got to make and, watching the game. You were working and working overtime a little bit. 2 5-set thrillers with your men's team. Unfortunately, dropping the first one in a close contest with Benedictine, but then hanging on for the victory against Wabash. So, like I said, a lot of extra time. I don't know how you feel about that, because it'd be easy to say, gosh, we were so close to winning if this would have gone right, we could have won the first match. But, of course, if a couple other things didn't go your way in the second match, maybe you don't win that one.
Oh, for sure. Exactly right. It was a long day. It was a grueling day. I thought our guys played, overall well. We had opportunities in the first match to beat Benedictine. We had match point in the fourth set, and unfortunately it just didn't happen. And then the fifth set we were down quite a bit and fought back and tied it up at 14-14 and just couldn't find a way to close it out. And then Wabash, I thought we handled them pretty well in the first 2 sets, and then they fought back, and nothing was easy. And so we found a way in the fifth set to come away with the win.
What's interesting, well, I don't know, I think it's interesting, I guess. You've got a limited number of men's volleyball programs, let's say in the Midwest, and what that's basically turned into is you kind of playing similar teams during the non-conference portion. And some of these teams have been established programs, obviously longer than ours have. Has that given you an opportunity to kind of just measure up the progress of your team, to see you're beating some teams that you haven't beaten before, you're playing teams closer, even in close losses where maybe they were dominating or winning in 3 sets in previous years? Do you see that as well?
Oh, for sure. I mean, a lot of these teams, just for example, yesterday, Wabash and Benedictine beat us 3-0 last year, and then for us to take both matches 5, win 1 and lose 1. It's definitely showing progress, and the group that we have is competing at a really high level, which is nice to see. So, even Thursday night when we played Dominican, to beat a ranked opponent for the first time was great experience for all of us to just see that we're moving in the right direction.
Was that all just about getting Jake Coogan, finally that victory before he left? I don't think I've ever seen a sibling rivalry played up as much. They had both of them on the post game, on the stream and everything, interviewing. So, but they seem like great kids, the two brothers, and I'm sure the family is a byproduct of that as well. But it seemed good-natured but competitive at the same time.
Oh, for sure. Those guys are both competitors, and Dominican, with their assistant coach is a Coogan as well, and he was a senior when Jake was a freshman, and so it was kind of 2 versus 1 that first year, and they were a really talented group, and that's just a great example of where we're going. We were 3-0 losses our first 3 times we played them, and then this year, as Jake was a senior, he did some really nice things and got us our first win against Dominican.
We've talked to a couple of the coaches and this has been coaches for every sport this time of the year, but there's been so many bugs and illnesses going around, and it sounds like earlier on in the season it kind of made its way through your team. Where are you guys health-wise now?
Yeah, I mean, we were missing one guy all weekend, but before that, I think the Dominican match was our first time with all 20 guys for a while, and like I said, we're missing one guy this weekend, and so hopefully this week we're all good to go. As of right now, we are, and so fingers crossed it stays that way.
Well, if there's anything if you're not sick, that'll get you sick, is traveling. But now that's what you're getting ready to do, is sit on an airplane for a while. But you guys are headed out to Springfield, Massachusetts, to the Morgan Classic. You're going to play Arcadia on the 14th. And then the winner of the Springfield NYU match, which will feature the number 7 and number 1 teams in NCAA men's volleyball, Division III men's volleyball right now. How is it going to be surreal for you going back to where, for those that don't know, or you played at Springfield and won, I think, 2 national championships, correct?
Yep.
Okay. You think it's going to be weird for you going back, like, I'm here with my team now, and I'm a collegiate coach? When's the last time you were even back on campus?
2018, so it's been a little bit of time, and then before that, I don't even remember, probably when I graduated, so I haven't been back very much, but yeah, I'm extremely excited to go back and show the guys where I used to play, and they'll get to compete on the same court that I did, and yeah, I'll be on the sidelines this time, and so the first time ever being in that position on that court, and it's going to be a great experience for I think everybody.
I know you hate it every time I talk about how successful you were, and so I won't go too deep into it. I don't want to. But your players, I was talking to Vince and to Jake. We interviewed them last week, and I said, Dad, is everybody on the team? I said, I talked to the women's volleyball players, and they had no idea, Coach Mueller's background and his success and everything like that. And he goes, yeah, he's a pretty humble guy, but we're pretty aware of what he used to do. And I remember back from my coaching days, I always thought it was helpful if my players thought I was a significantly better player even than what I actually was. I had to protect that a little bit,
Yep.
I remember during a shooting drill one time, I went up and I was frustrated with kind of guys were constantly knocking the ball over the goal, and I just caught a ball pretty sweetly and just drilled one into the net. And I said, I'm never going to do that again, because this is the thought I want in the back of their head
that's right.
about their coach. So I wouldn't say, you've actually got the bona fides, in the national championship and so forth. But it's still got to be special kind of connecting what was your playing experience along with your coaching experience now. Yeah,
I mean, I had a great experience at Springfield, and made me the coach and player that I am today, and it's going to be definitely a surreal experience. And yeah, I mean, I had a lot of good moments back then, and I think it's great that some of my guys know some of my accolades, but I mean, that's old news, and so it's about them and taking this program to the next level.
So you, and originally from Chicago, right? Grew up in Chicago, ended up in Springfield, Mass.
Yep.
You haven't been back. You said you were back in 2018. So I don't know if it's as much as where you're going back and you're visiting old haunts, or are there places where you're like, oh, we're going to go eat here, we're going to go.
Yeah, not necessarily that. It'll be good to see. I have a bunch of friends from out east that are going to be coming and connecting, and my coach is still there, and so it'll be good to connect with him. And yeah, we'll definitely show the guys some places that I've been. But yeah, it'll just be a really great experience for all.
The most important thing about the weekend is it's your last tune-up before you get into the conference slate of the schedule, which I know is the real focus. And at 9-3, you've had a great start, a historic start for the men's volleyball program here. I imagine part of what's positive about this weekend, other than the walk down memory lane, after you play that second match against either Springfield or NYU, you're probably not going to see much tougher. I mean, you've got good teams in the conference, but you're exposing your team to the level of volleyball they're going to need to play to be competitive in the CCIW.
Yeah, I mean, they're top 2 teams in the country, and so, I mean, that's a big reason why I wanted to go out there and compete against, the best that we don't see, and it just prepares us for, conference. I mean, if our guys can come in there and compete at a high level, then I think it just shows them that, we can do that against the North Centrals, Carthage, Loris, and Augustana, and if you believe, I think anything's possible.
Yeah, Carthage currently looks like they're ranked number 6 right now. Loris ranked number 12. Don't know if North Central is maybe also receiving votes. But in the assessment of the non-conference schedule, when you look at the team and you say, look, we're competitive, we're playing well. If we're going to really compete at a high level in the conference, these are the areas where we need to get better. Is something jumping out to you yet?
Definitely the serve and pass. I mean, when we're consistent there, I think that's when we've played at our best. It's when those things are a little bit of a struggle is when we tend to struggle, unfortunately. And, volleyball is such a big serve and pass game that we have to be good there. I think we've hit really well most of the year. But when we're not in system, it obviously makes it a lot more difficult. And but the good thing about our team is we have a lot of guys that can score, a lot of guys that are doing some really nice things, and so we're not, that typical team that has, like 2 guys that can do a lot of things. I think we have 4 or 5 guys that are doing some things at a really high level.
You can help explain that to me a little bit, because I'm not always the best with volleyball statistics and so forth, but you mentioned that, and I looked, and I think it was during the Benedictine game where it looked like our hitting percentage was significantly higher than Benedictine's. I forget when I kind of was looking at the team stats, and yet we were behind in that match. So if you're hitting at a high percentage and doing well on your hitting percentage, where are you typically leaking your points?
Yeah, I mean, block has been in the past couple matches where we're losing a few points in the block area. And then we're getting aced too many times. And so if we can eliminate getting aced and maybe get another block or 2, I think we'll be in really good shape. I think, definitely this weekend we got aced on a few balls that I don't think we should ever get aced on. And, when you lose by 2 points, I mean, that's kind of the difference there. And so we got to find ways to, on those tough serves, just give ourselves a chance instead of, not giving ourselves a chance.
We've talked to the players when they were in here last week about what a fun game, and I mentioned to anybody watching Titan Table Talk who hadn't been live to see a men's volleyball match really needs to get there, because the speed and the power of the game is just incredible, especially up close. Do you know offhand the speed of the serves that you're typically seeing at the Division III level, and maybe how that compares to what people might see in the Olympics during men's volleyball?
Yeah.
I mean, it's insane to think those guys are even that much bigger and stronger and faster. But
oh, for sure. Yeah, I think in general, high 50s, low 60s. Maybe the top guys are getting like 65 miles per hour. But those top D1 guys are hitting high 70s. I know they set the record. One of the guys on Long Beach got 80, and so
gravy.
The Olympians are even getting higher. And so it's pretty incredible, the power of this game, and just what they're able to do.
And so, how hard do you think some of the Division III kids are hitting?
Yeah, I mean, high 50s, low 60s typically, and some are getting mid 60s, and so.
Because I know we've got the serving machine. When you were talking about not getting aced and working on serve receive a little bit, so when you dial it up, I don't know how high that thing goes.
Yeah, we're trying to get in the 60s, and so get our guys that look of the top serves in the country, and so if we can handle that, I think we should be able to handle anything. And so, unfortunately, the float serve has been kind of our nemesis right now, and so we got to be a little bit better with serve receiving the float serve. Yeah,
it's amazing. I mean, you see some of these topspin serves that are just dipping and just hammered, and guys are just beautiful, passing beautifully off of that, but it's that float, that knuckler, right? I mean, the problem is the ball's moving anywhere.
Yeah, without a doubt. And so it seems simple, and but if you hit it right, I mean, the thing's dancing in the air, and you're just hoping that you can pop that ball up. So, but that's definitely an area we got to get better at. So that's going to be a focus here.
Well, hopefully a strong week of practice here, and everyone gets healthy and strong, and you have a fun and productive trip out to Springfield, Mass. And I know a lot of us are very anxious to see how things go as we kind of traverse through the conference season this year.
Yeah, I appreciate it. It's going to be fun.
Great. Thanks for joining us, Brandon.
Thanks.
That's going to be it for this week's Titan Table Talk. We thank all of our guests this week. Head of the track and field program, Todd Lowder. We also had head women's basketball coach, Maya Smith, head men's basketball coach, Ron Rose, and, of course, head men's volleyball coach, Brandon Mueller. We'll have more for you next week. Be sure you join us right here on Titan Table Talk.